It's safe to say that zombies are one of the most popular, if not the most popular, horror subgenres. The Walking Dead, at least for the first 5 seasons, was consistently the highest rated show on television, and the 5th season premiere was the most watched episode in cable history, with 17.3 million viewers. Welcome to Zombie Night Extravaganza. Last week, we started with George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. This movie invented the zombie genre, as we know it, and began shaping some definable rules. The rules really began to take shape with Romero's 1978 follow-up, Dawn of the Dead. These are the Romero zombies. They are generally slow-moving, their only impulse is to eat human flesh, and their initial cause is unknown. In 1985, Romero released the ambitious and groundbreaking third installment of the Dead series, Day of the Dead, where he showed that his zombies could remember some parts of their old identity, learn, and develop some new memories. Tonight, we look at a movie that blows that all up. After Night of the Living Dead debuted, George A. Romero and co-writer John Russo disagreed on how to continue the series. A compromise was reached. Romero would continue to make Dead films, while Russo would make Living Dead films. After bouncing around studios, Return of the Living Dead was released in 1985. The same year that Day of the Dead came out. Russo finally settled on first-time director Dan O'Bannon. O'Bannon was a longtime screenwriter who co-wrote John Carpenter's Dark Star as a film student and the screenplay for Alien, which is based on a short story he had written with his roommate. O'Bannon struggled throughout the directorial process and garnered a reputation as a demanding and difficult director.
So Return for me was a real education in how not to direct a movie, how not to manage other people. And I wouldn't even consider directing until I had rethought the whole process.
So, what was different about Return of the Living Dead? For one thing, it was a slapstick comedy that didn't take the horror element seriously to make social commentary like George A. Romero's films did. For another thing, O'Bannon's zombies were very different from Romero's. The film's canon is almost immediately established. Night of the Living Dead exists, as a movie, as does an unnamed George A. Romero, who has based it on true events.
Let me ask you a question, kid. Did you see that movie, Night of the Living Dead?
In the Living Dead films, the zombie outbreak has been caused by a strange chemical called 2,4,5-trioxin, which reanimates the dead, and is apparently also good on the ganja the U.S. military has been experimenting with. The biggest change, pointed out almost constantly, is that O'Bannon creates fast zombies. Speedy little devils. They specifically crave brains because death is, apparently, extremely painful.
I can feel myself rot.
Another major change is that it's unclear whether zombie bites infect the bitten with trioxin. However, direct contact with trioxin will kill and reanimate any character unlucky enough to breathe in a dose. One other major change is that destroying the brain will not stop the zombies, nor will cutting off body parts. Each body part reanimates by itself. Despite being a silly slapstick comedy film, Return of the Living Dead is well loved as a fun, punk zombie entry.
I mean, I got something to say, you know? What do you think this is all about? You think this is a fucking costume? This is a way of life.
Anyway, before I introduce the panel, let me say, please like this video and subscribe to the Movie Night Extravaganza YouTube channel. Also, we are now monetized, so if you have any pressing questions during this live show, send us a super chat. We are absolutely obligated by international law, human rights law, to answer it. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Movie Night Extra. All of our after parties are available on there forever. Okay, let me introduce the panel. Jay Underworld, illustrator, book cover artist, comic designer, and artist for Give Them an Argument, co-host of Movie Night Extravaganza and Bad Takes. Kristina Oakes, she has recently rebranded to Cosmopolitics, twitch.tv/Cosmopolitics, or on Patreon, or find her on all the social media websites, and she streams about 4 times a week. It's her birthday today, so make sure to wish her a happy birthday in the chat. Conan Neutron, host of Protonic Reversal and the frontman for Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends. They just got back from touring on the East Coast, and I got to see Conan play in Peekskill, New York. It was pretty awesome. Matt Bender, host of both Scam Economy and Doomed. He writes for Mashable and is a contributor on The Majority Report. I, of course, am your long-suffering host, Forrest Miller. I forgot to introduce myself earlier. Without further ado, let's get started.
You forget every time. Every time you forget. It's because it's a pre-recorded intro.
I like the recurring bit that I forget every time and I'm just doing it live.
I also like the rip from the headlines picture of you and me on Saturday. That was pretty impressive. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Well, I had to add the birthday girl part for Kristina, right. And I had to add Matt Bender, of course, featured guest onto that thing. So I figured that I would also put that picture on there. I mean, it takes 5 seconds extra.
She'd appreciate the term birthday ghoul. Thank you.
Yes, I know.
Happy birthday, Kristina!
Happy birthday!
Hey.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. Yes,
More cops.
What happened was 29 years ago, I did not want to stay in my mother's uterus for another 2 months, so I was like, "Get me the fuck out of here!" And yeah, so she almost had me on a couch.
We have a Matt Bender was infected by Tim Pool's beanie stench. Comment in the
Come on, Gumby.
I don't know if that's also how I got COVID, because I got COVID back in May or June, and it was after I went to the hotel bar where Ben Burgess debated Tulsi, friend to show Tulsi Gabbard and Tim Pool, and my thing was that Tim Pool accidentally moved his beanie around and gave me COVID through that, through the walls.
We had 2 minutes of on-air time. You already got Tim Pool and Tulsi Gabbard. Anything else to hit the bingo?
Well, it's Tulsi Gabbard Day,
It is. I assure you it is not. Hey. So I know Night of the Living Dead was last week, but I'm probably the only one in this panel who 24 hours ago was about 10 minutes away from the Night of the Living Dead graveyard. And then
were you?
Yeah, we played Pittsburgh on Sunday, and we went to the Dawn of the Dead, the Monroeville Mall. We went to the Dawn of the Dead Mall, but it was a half hour after they closed, which Sunday hours. It is a mall. It's also a national monument for nerds, but it's a mall too.
And you didn't break in.
Well, what is a mall if not a national monument for nerds in general?
I consider it a monument to capitalism, but that's a different movie, and we covered that last year, so that's why it's not this year. But yeah, Return of the Living Dead, allegedly Louisville, Kentucky. Looks nothing like Louisville, Kentucky, because they filmed in Century City and a few places in LA they could film cheaply. But yeah, it's allegedly Louisville, Kentucky. It looks nothing like Louisville, Kentucky, but I love that.
They only mention that really far into it too. They're like, "Oh, what city is it? Oh, they're by Louisville, Kentucky," and it's like, you could have just said you could have just made up a city, considering the place is called Unida Labs. I don't think you need the Kentucky reference, but you know what? Maybe I guess it's where you can actually drop a nuke and it can only destroy within this amount of space.
Was it 20 blocks? They said it was 20. What kind of nuke is that?
Well, it's a short range tactical nuke. They've designed them smaller and smaller so they can drop them on Russia.
It's a thumb drive nuke. It's real tiny. It's real small.
We're really jumping ahead here.
And so then in part 2.
Right, yeah. Oh, we're talking about part 2 today. Right. That's another one. That's another good one.
No, we don't. Part 2 has the great poster, which I would argue is better than than Return of the Living Dead's poster. but that's just my opinion.
I'm also just bringing it up because it's very interesting to be at like since it's zombie month that like I was literally just at the locations that some of these films were like conceived, and that's pretty unique. So, but yeah, Return of the Living Dead, it's more of a vibe than a place, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. Like when I first watched that, I did not know. I never saw it before until recently, and I didn't think it was like going to be a comedy, but I was like laughing my ass off. I was like, man, these zombies are ridiculous. And now I'm realizing since the punk aesthetic was really like a major thing when it came to this film, I'm like, man, I should have dressed up in my like punky outfit, but whatever.
Not really much at all how punk rock works, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. That's a separate discussion.
I first
actually
I first saw it, and then I want to ask Matt how he first saw this because he was excited to be on this panel. But I went through Walking Dead ended for a season or like for a season break or something like years ago, and I was watching Walking Dead at the time like every week, and I was like, I should just watch every zombie movie I can find. So I didn't know anything about Return of the Living Dead going in, and I watched that, and I was like, oh. This is like an 80s punk musical comedy / like not really music. They have a personalized soundtrack, so I guess it counts as like a musical comedy. But
which I would love to do that kind of work. By the way, anybody making zombie movies, like hit me up. Like I would love to do that. That'd be great.
Thriller. Well, that's a short film, but still.
Yeah,
this is like Thriller as a one of those like Sunday afternoon PSAs or whatever, like the after school specials. This is like after school special Thriller. That's how I would describe it to people. But Matt, let's hear from you. When did you first see this?
And did you see this before Night of the Living Dead? That's my question too. I have a theory.
I did not, because I was shown Night of the Living Dead. Well, first of all, I want to say it's great to be here. I just realized I haven't.
Also, welcome. 13 minutes in. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, and it's my pleasure. And this was the perfect one for me to be on personally, because this is one of my favorites. I'm a big zombie movie guy. I've been a zombie person for a very long time. I'm a horror person altogether, but really zombies are my forte. And this one is probably it's up there. It's up there. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt.
I was gonna say you got the apparel.
Right. And
I like how it's radioactive green. That's a good it's good.
Yeah, I can never wear one on my show because I use a green screen background, and
it throws it off then.
Yeah.
So and then you can't see anything. So I'm repping the Return of the Living Dead shirt when I don't have to use the green screen. Well,
by the way, I should say I've stolen your explanations that you've had on for the when crypto is kind of falling apart when the crash happens. I was recording a podcast with Kenzo and Ravana, and I wanted to like seem really educated, so I went on a bike ride for like 3 hours and listened to the 2 episodes that you guys did on the crypto crash, and then I came in and I was like, yeah, I know all about this. I'm totally up to date on this.
He's like Joe Biden with Neil Kinnock's speech. He's like plagiarizing.
That's what it's there for. I'm happy.
One day you could become president.
Yeah, exactly. Who knew?
But yeah. Sorry, I just wanted to say that.
All right, so my dad showed me Night of the Living Dead probably at an age that was probably too young for me to see Night of the Living Dead. So
and your dad's in the chat right now, right?
My dad is in the chat because he tunes in every Tuesday to the normal. I pushed Doomed to be here because I wanted to be here so badly. So
he's the one that put my favorite quote, which is "Send more cops in." That's your dad, Alan,
yes,
dude. That is my favorite quote, and that because that's like lunchtime. Send more cops. It's great.
That or send more paramedics. Both of them are classics.
I love a supportive dad.
But we all love to the paramedics. I think Send More Cops is age better. But go ahead.
Right. And so, I mean, I don't even remember how I came across this one, but I came across it a while ago. I don't remember when, probably, maybe at least when I was 15, 16, and so 20, 21 years ago. And
that's like the perfect age, too. That's like the perfect age to find this movie, for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, I was going through my discovery a little bit earlier than that, but my discovery of punk rock was like 12, 13. And this movie hit it all. It's got everything I want. A horror, punk. The one unfortunate thing is that the coolest character in the movie, Suicide, is the first to be killed. the one who in that intro that you put together, this is a way of life.
Yeah,
Costume.
he gets like the most the best line I think out of all of them besides Spider with his he's like it's you think this is just a fashion thing? No, it's a way of life, and he does a fucking John Travolta impression.
Right.
And what's funny is if not for the tone of voice and delivery, it could hit completely differently and more earnestly as an actual because it is actually punk rock is not a style of music, it is a way of life.
Right.
Just not exactly as depicted by the documentary Return of the Living Dead. But but it's again, it works well, even though it is kind of like we'll just charitably say like over enthusiastic delivery for it.
Right. Yeah. And but he also gets to get killed by Tarman, which is if
Who's
you're gonna
the
die, that's the way to go. Right.
Yeah. Beautifully created too. Just
still slaps.
Yes.
See, that's the thing about this movie. I think Day of the Dead has pretty good zombies, but Night of the Living Dead, obviously it's in black and white, so you can't tell that much. But Dawn of the Dead, for as good of a movie as it is, the zombies suck. Like the zombies are probably the worst design of any of the zombies in any of the zombie movies of that era. I mean, even Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2 had incredible zombies, and that came out before that. So to see the zombies here, like I feel like this movie is so underrated. Return of the Living Dead in terms of how people view modern day zombies. A lot of the lore of zombies certainly comes from George Romero's films, but I feel like a lot of what people visualize as zombies comes from Return of the Living Dead without people even realizing it's Return of the Living Dead. I mean, you'll hear people still to this day when they think of zombies, oh, I want to eat your brains. Right.
For that alone. Yeah. Just like it being like, instead of like, they're just like, oh, it's like, no, they say brains. And that's
right. That's from this movie. There was no brains, whether it was Romero or any other spin-off from another director, from Italy or from wherever. Doesn't matter where it was. This was the first film to connect the zombies with the must-eat brains thing, and the zombies even vocally saying brains. And I feel like people say that without even realizing this movie even exists.
When I realized the etymology of it, yeah, absolutely. And I like that there's the like in the universe of this movie, Night of the Living Dead is a movie, and canonically the rules from Night of the Living Dead are in there, and then are also like, oh no, that's. You mean, what's the movie lied? Like it's such a great moment because obviously there's no way to get around it. It's like one of the biggest one of the biggest horror movies of all time, one of the most successful independent films of all time. Like it's huge and it's all pervasive. So rather than trying to ignore it or directly pay homage to it, it's like referenced in such a way, but they add their own thing to it. And how they do that is basically by making them somewhat indestructible. So like a nuke will do it, but it's hard.
Yeah, like you have to actually incinerate them for them to
right. Yeah. Like so the implication is
with
like
problems.
Yeah, like
because you can't announce a pope after you kill the zombie.
Yeah, like this creates like a new, like even more.
How long were you waiting to say that, by the way, with Zombie Pope? Were you waiting like for 20 minutes?
Years I've been waiting for this.
Okay. But also too, like this adds like more tropes to the zombies, like how they're basically indestructible. Even you can't even destroy their brain. You got to do like something so extreme in order to kill them, and also too giving them a more updated look, like different stages of like decay, for instance.
Right, which are all the same points that I was going to make, and also I was going to mention going back to the I Am Legend discussion because we have a shared brain. We established that last episode of a shared brain, Kristina, that they have sentience, right? That like I Am Legend, we talk about I Am Legend a lot, or at least I attempted to. And one of the things that makes I Am Legend so amazing is because you have them like harrying the main character. And they're harrying him because they have like intelligence. They're trying to get him to like come out so they can get him, right? And so like this brings that in, which is a whole different level of like, no, these like they're cagey. They'd be like, send more paramedics, send more cops, like, oh, we need, we want more.
And nobody's gonna think like, hey, there's some danger here. Like when you hear like send more cops, you just send more cops on the dispatch. Like, I mean,
emergency.
Yeah.
It's honestly the only time it's ever okay for someone to call and ask for the cops to come.
Yeah, no one's saying abolish the police in this movie.
Well, I mean, the zombies are kind of saying, well, not abolish. They want to abolish the police altogether
in a very
because they're going to eat them all.
way. They want to abolish the police by devouring the police.
Well,
it's
I mean, let's face it though.
Framing.
This movie is a little bit more right wing than some other of the zombie films because it does kind of focus like at the beginning, like, oh, government's bad because like, oh, this is built by the U.S. Army of Engineers, nothing can happen to it, and then it breaks immediately.
Well, I don't think that's saying government's bad, but I think it's making fun of the U.S. Army.
Little bit, it's feeding into that whole Reagan 80s, government does nothing right kind of thing.
It's feeding into the army as like kind of an incompetent organization, right? Like we have so much, like this is such a decadent and like overabundant society, I guess, that like the army is just like, oh, it's okay, we can lose these these chemicals and from a private company that like might turn you into a fucking zombie. Like, well, whatever, like we'll keep looking for them. Like they don't seem that stressed out about it when they finally get the call. They're like, hey, the eggs have hatched, and the fucking
what does he say? Like, oh yeah, why didn't you call sooner? Because apparently this dude's only job is to wait for the phone to ring for a zombie outbreak, which is an amazing job. But he doesn't seem very happy at it. He seems pretty bummed out about it, frankly. But
they seem
he misses the great days
about those things, those barrels missing. I mean, if they could create zombies and all out zombie Armageddon, you think they would be a little bit more proactive than just waiting for someone to call them.
Yeah, with a phone number written on the barrel, like literally stenciled on the barrel. Call this number for a good time, or to save us from a zombie apocalypse, whatever.
They're like, you know what? Someone's bound to call. Like, they called the cops, they called the paramedics. Like, someone's gonna call us eventually. Like, it's gonna get bad.
They can't call Ghostbusters because they don't specialize in zombies.
We should also mention that this is the first film to portray. I don't think we've mentioned it yet. It's the first film to portray fast zombies.
You're right. And we are covering 28 Days Later in the month, which kind of took that to the extreme. But again, in that same way, those are infected people just like they are here. Like technically, so there's the academic question, are they actually zombies, right? What does it mean to be a zombie? What qualifies as a zombie? Which, have you ever looked at Reddit for those threads? Don't, by the way. But
they usually put them into two categories. They have the George A. Romero zombies, and then they have the O'Bannon zombies, and the people really duke them out online.
Well,
like,
I think
that's
simple. If the infected are dead, then they're zombies.
They're Romeros.
And in this movie, they are confirmed to be dead. Even what are their names?
Was it Fred?
Frank and
Frank.
What's his name? Freddie. Frank and Freddie are the two who get infected. The two. They're
the two guys at the beginning, the buddy cop movie.
Yeah. They are confirmed by the paramedics who arrived to be dead. They were paramedics completely confused by it. They have no vital signs.
Like, this is crazy, but you don't actually have any life signs. And they're talking, what do you mean? I don't have any life signs.
And the mortician, Ernie, who by far steals the movie, if you ask me, wonderful actor. Don Kaifa? I'm not sure how to say Kalfa, I think. I can't remember how to say his name. But he steals the movie, if you ask me, in terms of acting. But
Don Kalfa.
Yeah, he confirms to them that they're going through rigor mortis too when they start feeling pain in their bodies. I mean, they are dead. Whereas in 28 Days Later and other infected movies, there is a belief that you can cure these people because obviously they haven't died yet. So that's not Night of the Living Predators. Says,
I know. I try not to read the comments when I'm talking. That's too distracting. They're funny. Yeah, but like you're saying, like they're infected people that like there could be a cure for it, as opposed to like, oh no, you may not realize it, but you're actually dead at this point. Like what? What do you mean?
And they don't have like the formative moment, I guess, that you see in a lot of these movies where like the characters actually die, and then you see them dead, and the person's like,
you see
him for 1 second, and then he's like back, and he's like, I've had my moment of clarity, and I know it will stop this pain. And then that's when he fucking goes live brain. spins and goes for her. That's like the one time we really see anybody turn. I mean, besides like there's the all right, we got a super chat from the Emo Dragon.
Ooh.
Zombies and Bender, great combo. What up, Forrest, Andy, and Conan? Screaming happy birthday, Kristina. Matt's dad follows me on Twitter. He's based AF.
That's more of a comment than a question, but thank you, Emo Dragon.
Yeah.
we appreciate it.
There's a question mark after Conan, so technically that is a question.
What up? Not much. Just chilling. It's $4.99 too. Is this like are we running a sale? Like what is it?
Yeah.
I think it's $4.99, $9.99, and I think there's
there's a lawyer in Augusta, Georgia, where it's like, call the line 9999999, and I'm like, why?
Well, that's the number. That's the number you call when you find the chemical from Darrow Chemical Company. That you have to call that number, and then you get in touch with the the military, and they'll send a tactical nuke to your house.
Yes.
So another thing that Return of the Living Dead does, though, is like when you dismember them, like the limbs still are like are a threat as well, like that. That's a whole thing, which again is a different kind of threat, because it's like, okay, you can completely incinerate the body, you can nuke them, but like how else do you really get rid of these? You can't just shoot them in the head like you can like the rest of them, which makes them a much more like crazy, like high threat level if you stop and think about it.
Yeah, you wonder how like they actually were able to contain it in the first place.
Like this, I like this job. That's great. That's another very funny moment. But I saw that again. I was like, that's funny, because that guy's totally nobody wants to work anymore when someone disagrees with him. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, that guy is. I like every level of this movie feels like it's baked in with incompetence. Like a perfect example is when the hand runs in and grabs the one guy who should be kind of calm in the situation to hey, these are these are dead people. I know about dead people. I know about rigor mortis, like all this
I
stuff.
literally work with them all day. It's my
that guy starts freaking out and tears his pants because the hand grabs him, which I would too, but you think that would be the one guy that's like, okay, calm down. These are just dead bodies. I incinerate these all the time.
And then there's an interesting long shot where they're in conversation where he just kind of cuts off the leg. And you're like, well, what's going to happen with that? Nothing. We're just watching a man cut the rest of the leg of the pants off. Okay, cool. That's fine. Thought something might happen, but yeah, makes sense. He's not going to be. He doesn't have stripper pants. Is that
you don't want to trip on it,
Yeah, I get it.
I honestly feel like I'm wearing a stripper outfit right now, to be honest.
Nobody's mad at it though.
So I grabbed this clip for Andy. This is talking about designing the actual zombies, and it's Dan O'Bannon and the art director. Andy, who's the art director that you
William Stout.
Yeah, Bill Stout, I think.
Delicious.
Yes, Bill Stout.
A stout for the whole family.
Very specific views on what this film should look like. He actually made my job as production designer very easy, because Dan is a very visual person. I don't know if you're aware, but Dan can really draw well. Really good artist. And so made my job much easier because he was very specific with what he wanted. He wanted the corpses to look realistic. And so that put me on this sort of path of discovery and researching actual corpses, preserved corpses, and what they look like. I got the huge photo book on the mummies of Guanajuato. I began doing research at the LA Public Library, looking at police pathology photographs. Our intent was to make this film look as real as possible. Even though there were a lot of comedic aspects, we thought that by making it as real as possible, it would actually sell the comedy even better. My basic design point of departures were the mummies of Guanajuato, actual police pathology photographs, and then also Dan and I are both big fans of the old EC Comics, Tales of the Crypt, Vault of Horror, Crypt of Terror, things like that. And so we wanted to pull some of that influence into it as well, especially because the EC Comics sort of treated the resurrection of the dead as a horror piece, but also with a lot of humor as well. And so I went back and looked at the Graham Ingalls and the Jack Davis work and used their corpses, the revivified corpses, also to influence the look of the corpses. And Dan treated the corpses as principals in the film. In fact, his phrase for it was the principal corpses. So we had the principal actors, but we also had the principal corpses, Tarman being the main principal corpse, also the half corpse, the woman on the gurney. another principal corpse. The Yellow Man, another principal corpse. And then there were all these subsidiary principal corpses or not so principal corpses, such as the fellows up here. This was based on a Guanajuato mummy, as was this. This was more EC influenced. In fact, I named this one EC. I thought it would be funny if one of them had lost their lower jaw, since there really isn't anything that connects the lower jaw to the head once you're dead, especially if it rots away. And so I named him Jaws. This is also based on a Guanajuato mummy. This was a little tribute to Bernie Wrightson. This is the look that we really wanted to have in the film.
Bernie Zombie 2020, by the way.
Tarman. Tarman was a really interesting problem in that here we wanted to present this basically a skeleton whose flesh is turned into this tar-like substance and is stripping off the bones. Well, how do you do that convincingly with a man in a suit? It's obviously going to be much bulkier than a skeleton. So there was a couple of solutions to that. For one, whenever I do man in suit creatures or monsters, I always insist that you never hire a stuntman for that. You always hire an actor, because the actor is going to bring an extra special bit of life to that costume or that suit. He's going to think of things because of his craft that a stuntman would never think of. Other stuntmen their job is to think of action. So actors, we got this fabulous actor, Alan Troutman, to be in the suit. And Alan is incredibly thin. And so what I did is I designed this in such a way so that the bones were actually layered on the outside of Alan's body. And then we built up the flesh, or the dripping flesh, on top of that. So the illusion was that this was the skeleton. Alan could move in a way, it looked as though his bones weren't connected, weren't held together by anything. So he was incredible movements. He really brought that suit to life.
The whole EC Comics thing totally makes sense now that he says it too.
Yes.
And also, let me just throw in that Tarman, probably one of the coolest horror movie characters in this era. I mean, real talk, right?
And really great to also see him mention Bernie Wrightson, who really raised the bar on the zombie paintings in the 70s.
I also really like that he kind of looks like Bernie Sanders, the zombie they designed of him.
What you know? No, it looks like Bernie Wrightson, man. I had dinner with the dude. He was. I mean, he passed away a few years ago. An incredible artist. He actually did set design work on a couple movies himself, including Ghostbusters and The Faculty. I had dinner with him right around the time The Faculty came out.
But what's up, Jason? I have the best comment right now queued up that I think we were gonna get tonight. Never. 911
Flame. Never send more cops. 911 is a joke. Yeah, boy. Flavor of the Dead. God damn it.
I'm dead.
One of my favorite commenters.
I realized that watching that clip that Andy was gonna get super excited about watching them talk about the process of actually designing
the fact that I have a Jack Davis impersonation, which I'm not going to do here because nobody really cares.
Thank God.
Tells you like how much I love. I actually got to meet Jack Davis as a kid too, which was amazing because that dude's an absolute legend. One of these days I'm going to head back to Georgia and visit his art archives at the Georgia University library.
So if you want to hear more about all that, Andy will talk about it in the after party, I'm sure.
Well, I think we're not going to do an after party tonight, but the after party on Friday.
Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, Friday.
Never mind.
Friday, I'll tell you how I got to have dinner with Bernie Wrightson. That's quite a hell of a story, but that is not a topic for discussion tonight.
Great, Matt. Did you know any of that stuff in that clip? Because I didn't.
I did not know. That was very interesting. You could see it in some of the I mean, the zombies in this are. I feel like every movie going forward after this took from this movie the zombie designs. There's no, they as influential as Romero's zombie movies are, the zombies never look like they do in the Romero movies again. I mean, this is how the zombies look going forward. I mean, maybe you got, Bub is the closest to, from Day of the Dead is the closest to what you got in here from Romero.
Which they came out simultaneously, which makes you wonder.
Yeah.
They both came out in 1985. So you have to wonder if they kind of stole.
Which one shot
intel.
first? Which one shot first? Do we know?
Like Han shot first or Greedo shot first? Is that what you're asking?
Which movie went to production first?
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm gonna guess it was. I'm gonna guess it was Day of the Dead, but let me see if I can find an actual.
Return of the Living Dead actually started a long time before that. It was he wrote the script back in the 70s. Nobody was interested in the script. He turned it into a novel, which I've never read. Then the finally studio got a hold of it. Was going to go forward with Toby Hooper as the director.
Oh, is that pre or post Life Force? Which
actually pre-Life Force, because he left working on this to do Life Force, which was also written by Dan O'Bannon,
which also has another woman naked for a large portion of the movie.
Oh wow! So Day of the Dead.
Not that I keep track of such things.
So Day of the Dead was released a month before Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, yes. But that would have meant that filming was done, but
basically not necessarily. We don't know. Not necessarily doesn't mean that does not mean. But what I'm saying is, being that there was some personal connections between these movies, it's possible that Romero felt he had to step up the zombie the costume design.
Also, there was influence one way early, and then like maybe some influence was kind of came back, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe
also, don't forget, by the time Day of the Dead came out, the guy who did like a lot of the props and special effects, whose name is escaping me at the moment, Tom Savini. Tom Savini was able to kind of raise his game, from what he was doing in. Dawn of the Dead to Day of the Dead.
As much as Matt Bender was talking trash about Dawn of the Dead, all the awesome stuff is all Tom Savini, who, to be fair, was still learning his craft at the time. He wasn't the master.
I love that he puts himself. He gets wedged.
Talking trash. It's crazy. He's talking trash. It's Bender character.
I like that he wedges himself in there as a motorcycle guy too. Like he tries to get as much.
Oh yeah, which is great. That's an incredible cameo.
He's booking it to the mall. Like
why wouldn't
I will say the original Dawn of the Dead, my least favorite of the original 3 Romero zombie movies.
What?
Yes, I know.
What?
I know. Most
Get off this show.
Most people think the opposite. No.
That is one of my favorite movies of all time, my guy.
I actually think Night of the Living Dead's better, I think. But also I think Day of the Dead is better than Dawn of the Dead.
You're mental, but I love
also the Dawn of the Dead remake in 2004 really upped the game. And that movie really picked that one. I mean, I don't think
if they called it anything other than Dawn of the Dead, like I would just objectively say I liked it. But what I hated about the remake of the Dawn of the Dead wasn't that it wasn't a good movie. It's just that the critique of commercialism is completely gone. It's just like, oh, they're in a mall for like no reason, and
they're in a mall. That's what you do in 2004.
It's fast zombies for no reason or explanation. It's probably it's assuredly one of the better Zack Snyder movies. I actually like it, but if they had been called it something other than Dawn of the Dead, I would have liked it more. But then I like Dawn of the Dead. It's one of my favorite movies.
The best zombie movie of all time. Scooby-Doo.
Reiterating the point for people to join later for us.
I like the original. I like the original Dawn of the Dead. I just think it's a little overrated.
You're just a Snyder fanboy.
The adulation it receives.
Oh God.
It's the zombies in that movie are probably the worst of any of the zombie movies,
I mean,
honestly. They're really bad.
Yeah, the purple skin not really doing it for me, but yeah,
it's just regular people, with a little bit of purple makeup on their face, a little purple splotch.
Except for the Hare Krishna, which is Hare Krishna, what's purple.
Right.
But they were figuring it out.
But aren't Hare Krishnas like 99% of the way to being zombies anyway? From there,
I will say that Michael Jackson Zero, they really knew how to do zombie makeup, so that's good.
Yeah.
But when did Lucio Fulci's zombie movie come out? What was that?
That was
1980. No, 1979.
That was 79.
Yeah.
79, yeah. And I mean, those zombies are good. And I guess Dawn of the Dead came out a year or before that. All right, well.
But okay, all right. Like, you don't think that it's like a pretty stunning critique of capitalism at the time? I mean, by the way, I'm bringing this up. Can you believe this?
Look at you bringing up, making it political, Conan.
I got to make it political, Conan.
What? What is this?
I can't believe they made zombies political.
Anyway, whatever. Let's talk about what we agree on.
I like that the Quartering blocked our podcast account the first time we made one of those jokes within seconds. I think.
So Return of the Living Dead, I think there's kind of like a nihilistic undertone, to be sure, and some of that comes from like the perceived punk rock energy, which again, I need to be explicitly clear. Someone that grew up ostensibly punk, like that, there was no one like Linnea Quigley running around naked as like a thing. That was not a thing that ever happened. Nor did anyone have like the
speak for yourself.
I mean, maybe I was saying the wrong crowds. I don't know. But,
yeah. I mean, I've had sex in a graveyard. Yeah, I don't know about you guys.
Well, look, I didn't say that. Hey man,
well, it's kind of more of like the goth, the beginning of like a goth kind of thing, right? Where it's completely an aesthetic. It's like an aesthetic, emotive, I mean, way of life, but in the way that like like any kind of lifestyle thing is a way of life. In this movie, it seems much more consumeristic than it is. But that's how teenagers are too. Like it's not like these are top level punks that Punk Incorporated. These are like teenagers running around Louisville, Kentucky, being all punk in
Louisville, Kentucky. Yeah.
By the way, I didn't know this till recently. Till I was reading up some information about the movie to come on here, and I did not realize. But the actress who plays that the character who's naked and for the majority of the movie, she's been quite active ever since. She never stopped making movies. She's still making them.
She is what is known as a scream queen because she's been in so many horror movies.
So here's a clip of her talking about it more recently because she's on the convention circuit. I found this clip. I could only find I found a couple older interviews with her, but they're always kind of weird and misogynistic from like the the guy's point of view. Yeah. Wow. So this is a less this is a more respectful.
Yeah, they don't say. Yeah. Who could have predicted?
I'm totally shocked by the horror base that it is like become, and it's a cult film. When we did it, we didn't think anything of it. We thought we were doing another horror film, and of course, you don't see other actors doing their other things sometimes because you aren't in scenes with them. So we just thought, okay, we're doing a horror movie, and it'll be out, come and go, and that's when, because I loved horror myself, but then I discovered that there's a lot more people that love it too, which was great because I could meet them. But no way did I think it was going to be a cult classic and last this long. And I'm very sad because, yesterday I was informed that James Cameron died, and he was like a driving force because he was always positive, always upbeat, and it kind of like inspired you just to do more and be a better person too.
Are there particular memories that stand out most powerfully for you that make you smile the most, laugh the most, cry the most?
In Return of the Living Dead? Oh my. In the movie, when James Cameron goes to the cremation place and he takes his ring off and they're playing that music, burn, I don't know, that gets me every time. I get just like really like, oh God, because it's just like so horrible. And, he's like obviously a very happy married man and he just does that. It just is sad.
I swore I thought you were saying James Cameron, by the way.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any. I was like, oh no.
I was like, wait, what happened? Wait, what?
Yeah, James Cameron died in 2018, and like I like to speak to my manager Karen. For
he was in like Wall Street. He's in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That guy had a long story.
No, he was actually cast by Toby Hooper.
Forgot about that.
He was cast by Toby Hooper for this film, and he's the only person that actually stayed in there because. Dan O'Bannon was so impressed with his performance, with his because he made him audition again whenever he was kind of recasting everything. He's like, no, you're good. But yeah.
Well,
the last bit of Toby Hooper's vision is his casting. So,
which of course I guess we never mentioned Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's how people should know Toby Hooper. If you don't like, I feel like there's like the horror nerds, and then there's people that watch show that are not horror nerds, right? So I think it's important to mention.
Yeah.
Now, also, Life Force is an insane movie, but I love it. It's completely nuts.
Yeah, by Dan O'Bannon. Anything by Dan O'Bannon, always worth watching. Always nuts.
Okay.
But Matt, were you gonna say something?
What was I gonna say?
Well, let me see what I was gonna say real quick.
Yeah,
One thing I like about the punk culture is that like how it isn't just all spikes and chains. You see like there's like kind of new wave dude. There's the chick that's like dressed regularly. Like that's actually very accurate to what punk culture was at the time. So as much as I've only talked trash about it, like I think that like seeing it again, I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of awesome because it is sort of like that's what it is really like. It isn't like a bunch of people dressed up like they're going to an exploited show. You know, that's like not the only thing that
everyone's wearing like mohawks for hairstyles,
right? I mean, exactly. It's just that isn't how it actually is. So that part 100% gets it right. Matt, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It was although I do question how many of those different subgenres of punk would be hanging out together.
Remember when
I know in Louisville,
be the next big thing?
Well, in small town, as someone who grew up in a town in California, has more in common with Nebraska than it does with San Francisco or Los Angeles. I can tell you right there is that all the freaks, nerds, and weirdos hung out together because there wasn't anyone else other than the normies. So
solidarity.
Right. There you go. That's how it should be. Right. Yeah, I don't know what else was I gonna say about this. Where we were talking right now. Yeah, I mean, I think we said everything about the specific punk aesthetic that this movie has, and how, I mean,
we can just talk about Linnea Quigley if you want. I mean,
I mean, the thing is, it never makes sense exactly why she just gets nude in the movie.
I don't think it's meant to make sense.
She doesn't even get drunk or anything. Like, and like, oh, she's acting drunk. No, she just literally just sitting there and just starts just rip her clothes off.
Well,
then,
a really funny comment that I saw Dan O'Bannon saying is that he was like, yeah, I just assumed that this was going to be like an exploitation movie for like teenagers that, you know, are going to come in and just like want to see. But like, he was like, I thought it was going to be just male teenagers. And he was like, well, you know, I got to the actual premiere and it was male and female teenagers. Everybody was there. And he was like, if I had known that, I would have, you know, put some dick into this movie too. And had he's like, if I had known that, but, you know, he's like, I didn't know that. I assumed that this would just be guys. So that's the reason that I didn't.
Films.
I would say maybe like, oh, her being nude for her own reasons would be empowering or something, but at the same time, it doesn't work in this movie because the female characters in this movie are pretty weak. It's sadly. Yeah. So I mean, it feels like the point of her getting nude, honestly, is just so they have a nude punk zombie walking around when she turns.
Yeah. Which I had originally saw this edited for television. Years ago.
Long?
No, they because they actually refilmed all of her scenes where she's wearing like a bodysuit. So like apparently like you know zombies don't have genitalia because you'll notice like the yellow zombie earlier in the film also doesn't have nipples. So I just thought it was a choice that zombies in this universe don't have nipples for the longest time until I watched the unrated version years ago.
What do you guys?
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. This was a comment I've had it in my head this whole time, and when you asked me, I couldn't remember. But this is the point to what you were saying. I forgot who said it earlier about how nihilistic this movie is in general.
Oh, it was me, Conan Neutron. I said that.
Right. I mean, it doesn't get any more nihilistic than the idea that not only can you not kill the zombies, but no matter what you do, just creates more of them. There's no way to win in this movie. Like, we know in zombie movies, usually, you know, even a winning scenario involves humans living in a post-apocalyptic world. But that's not even a possibility here in Return of the Living Dead universe. The humans will die. They will lose. There's no way to win. You kill a zombie.
Containment is the only option, right?
Yeah. Right, and how many? And once you get to the point that they get to in this movie, containment's no longer even an option because how are you going to contain hundreds of people like they did? Like, this all starts because the U.S. military is able to contain, what is it, like half a dozen bodies in those barrels that they show. Once it gets to the point of them dropping a nuke, I mean, even that they show in the end doesn't even fix it because it just creates more zombies. Because once you burn the zombies and the smoke from their ashes rise and it rains or something. It gets the same.
Which it also it comes to the idea of like environmental degradation and acid rain happening around this time. Like
that's what I was gonna say. That was very much in the zeitgeist this year because I think it's in play at Day of the Dead a little bit as well. But like it's very much like acid rain was like, hey, here's why the environment may be in trouble right now. You know, in the mid '80s, of course, and it's like acid rain that's in our future. And like, well, what if acid rain but turned you to zombie?
And they don't really react. I mean, they react to it like
drink rain water anymore, and I'm like, I wonder why.
But they react to it as if like, oh, like this sucks that it hurts, but not like that they're surprised at the actual fact that like the rain is burning their skin. They're just like, oh, this sucks, the rain hurts, like. So that's kind of another nihilistic moment that we're so far into this environmental crisis that it's like. The characters are not like, oh fuck, this means that something bad is happening. They're just like, yeah, this hurts and I wish it didn't, but like, let's get to the car.
It kind of rings a little too true for today. Am I right, guys?
Right. Well, good news is acid rain's not so much the problem anymore. Just
right. That one. Yeah, we lick that problem.
We got
live carbon.
But the idea of it being like completely not containable, I think that's an incredible point because like that's also makes it different than like the Romero zombies, which are obviously a plague and it's something where it can get out of control and it does get out of control. But like the fact that again, need to point out that from a horror movie standpoint, a Return of the Living Dead zombie is almost like scarier than a Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers or something along those lines, right? Because you have to like burn them in a furnace or drop a nuke on them. It's like the third time I've said that. And I've repeated it for a reason because like, it's like, wow, you just made the toughest creatures ever. And and like,
which another movie that does another movie that kind of does a similar thing that came out a year later. I mean, it's it's a remake, but Little Shop of Horrors, right? Like the entire thing is that it wants plants to, it wants the seedlings to be spread out throughout the entire world in much the same way that you can't destroy, it might be fine to contain like 6 zombies or something, but like you can't contain as many as they've created in the situation. In the same way, like at the end of Little Shop of Horrors, the actual plan is like seedlings given to everybody, so it devours the entire country. It's kind of the same idea, I think.
Another bummer ending, just like Night of the Living Dead, just like Return of the Living Dead. I'm sensing a theme here. It's a bummer endings.
It's morning in America, baby.
There is MOURNING, morning in America.
Conan, do you want to do the letterbox one-liners?
Oh wow, we're doing them early. Okay, yeah, sure. So Matt, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this bit, so I'm going to direct this directly to you. That there is this site called Letterboxd. It is a social media site for film lovers to talk at, with, and to each other about the films they love, maybe the films they didn't love, films they're weirdly thirsty for. Makes sense. Naked women running around. All of the discussions you can have, open source democracy. Everyone gets to have their say, not just the Siskel's and Eberts. Bottom up. Everybody gets to work on their tight 5, work on their comedic material. These are best expressed in the one-liner format, which is what this is. These are the letterbox one-liners for Return of the Living Dead. We're going to react to them. Here we go.
Oh, boy.
I, too, have friends named Trash, Suicide, and Spider. Nice background, by the way. That's
I edited it for TV.
Yeah. The events portrayed in this film were all true. The names are real names of real people and real organizations. I love that disclaimer. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
I was like, that's amazing. The Repo Man of zombie movies.
Kinda. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can back that.
Yeah. Certainly same vibe.
Send more cops.
I mean, classic.
Movie, you know what that means, and that's not. It doesn't work out so well for the cops. Am I right? That's right, folks.
Well, someone's got to take care of all these cops that are really causing trouble.
Real
There's
busy.
a metal band from I forget where they're from called Send More Cops. It's a
Oh, really?
great use of the
There's a song by the great band Police Teeth called "Send More Cops." That's pretty great too. So solidarity. No fair. I want to dance in a cemetery naked.
Well.
It's happening right as this.
Forrest will be DMing you shortly.
We just can't see it, you know.
Other movies could choose to be this rad, and they don't.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with that? Other movies.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I was a little bit worried that you were gonna find people complaining about this movie, but this has been pretty good.
It's pretty good so far. Yeah. People like it. It's good. Watching the hordes of zombies attack successive arrivals of paramedics from outer frame is just such a funny bit. True fact stated. Agreed.
How does that only have one like, by the way?
It's me. I'm the one that liked it. That was me.
I mean, but there's only, if I recall, there's only 2 ambulances that arrive. The thing that gets funny is the line of cop cars, and then they all get out of their cars, and all the zombies jump from the sides and eat them. Like, there was a line of cop cars. That's the scene.
That's why Russ Ryan's review only has one like, and it's me, I guess. The hero is a Nazi that works in a crematorium.
Yeah, he's definitely Nazi coded. I don't know if you ever see.
I thought this one was controversial, but
I don't think he's a Nazi, but there's definitely like a little bit of, I think, parallels with him having the actual crematorium, I guess. And he literally has like a Mauser, like a German gun.
What was the song he was listening to at the beginning?
So
when they first introduced him.
There's a little bit of coding. They were originally gonna have a Chinese like long pistol or something, but at the end they decided to have it be like a German Mauser. Like he's definitely a weird guy. I'm not saying he's a Nazi, but he's definitely like
No Miser 17 is calling it out.
Wait, hold on. He has a pinup of Eva Braun as well in the movie?
Does he?
Oh,
it's what I'm looking up right now. Maybe it's not so coded.
Really?
Holy shit!
Yeah. No Miser 17 is better than all of them.
It's not so coded, but it's a flat out. Yeah.
How did I miss that? I've seen this movie like 5 times.
Well, I was noticing the last time I was watching, I was listening to that song that he was listening to, and I'm like, what is that song? And then I completely forgot to investigate it because
Well, he's listening to it says this too. I'm looking at it's a Reddit post I found. He's listening to World War II era German music.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that the crematorium is a little bit of a thing too, because like, you know, he literally, like, that is what they incinerated people in concentration camps and stuff. Like, I could see that, and he's definitely a weird
it's
character.
also what you would do to a zombie, so I don't think that one is so.
Yeah,
he's like the Adolf Hitler of zombies, rounding them up and putting them in the oven.
By the way, Dead Snow, that's a good movie that we haven't watched or that we haven't talked about that is good.
Oh my god, I'm looking at
No Miser 17 is vindicated for that comment. Zombie punks, fuck off.
Well, hold on, I found some more. Here we go. Okay, in the DVD commentary,
go back.
Dan O'Bannon revealed that he initially conceived Ernie as an actual Nazi in hiding.
What the really?
For instance, in his introductory scene, he's listening to the German Afrika Korps march song. There are several other clues sprinkled out in the film that links Ernie to the Nazi party. Hold on, I want to click and see what the several other clues are.
Careful, get on a list.
Oh my god, I've been watching this movie. Jeez.
How did I not pick up on this? This is wild. This is like breaking news. Breaking news from a movie from 1985.
So Ernie listens to the German Afrika Korps march song Panzer Rollin' in Afrika Vort. Excuse my German accent there.
Total
on
Bob.
His Walkman while he embalms bodies, carries a German Walther P38, has a picture of Eva Braun in his morgue, refers to the rainstorm coming down like the Ein Betrunken Soldat, which means a drunken soldier in German, really knows his way around the crematorium, and seems surprised and ashamed when he learns that the dead can feel pain.
Wow. Okay, so everybody find Snow Miser 17 on Letterboxd and like this review, because this is
this is that makes a lot of sense why he's like the dead can feel like why he's surprised about that, because that's also a weird scene. That character has a lot of sus moments that I felt like there's some joke or something that I wasn't getting completely. You know what I mean? Like he's very cagey. He's very cagey when they come in there, and he's down to help them with anything. But then he's like, he seems very sus about it, right? Like it seems like there's something that I wasn't clicking with that character.
He also goes out.
I gotta say,
space hold a gun to the girl's head. That's true. I forgot about that. God damn,
I gotta say, big move to make, like that guy said, make the Nazi the hero of the movie.
Yeah, again, Snow Miser 17. Come on, moving extravaganza. Let's talk it out. Obviously, you deep watcher. I mean, geez.
I mean, also it could be problematic. Maybe this person is very pumped that the hero is a Nazi.
I didn't even think about that.
Oh, okay, never mind.
It's big internet, right.
Maybe he sees himself as a hero in a movie for the first time. It's the opposite of that. Are we the baddies meme?
Yeah,
no.
Opposite he's like, are we the goodies? Like,
finally, some representation in film. Zombie punks, fuck off. It's a long way to go for a Dead Kennedys reference, but here we are. Feel good about it. I don't think Dan O'Bannon's ever met a punk rocker. Yes, that's what I was talking about. Yeah, I agree.
I don't like they only gave it 3 stars. This movie is excellent.
Fair. Reason number 1: while only dance naked in cemeteries that are nowhere near a medical supply store.
Yeah, this is a very weird cemetery, right? Like it's like a backlot cemetery. Like I feel like you have to be, financially struggling quite a bit to end up in that cemetery, as opposed to like the, probably the nicer cemetery in the area.
Just burn me in a fire pit or toss me in the ocean. I don't care at this point.
Also, the one guy says, I've never been to a graveyard before. But they're like, haven't you ever been to a funeral? And he's like, no. Yeah. I want to live that guy's life, number one.
Yeah, like exactly, like for real, man. Yeah, exactly. I've lost like 5 people in the last 2 years.
Which guy said that? It's like the new wave guy, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think the purpose of him saying that is because he's the loser. So the point is he doesn't know anybody. He doesn't have any friends. They're constantly ragging on him and making fun of him.
He's a lone wolf.
Like the outcast. They don't like him. Like even the new wave girl who's stuck with him, she like hates him. She even says it. She says, I know, whatever, I forgot his name, but she says, I hate you, but please hold me. Remember that scene?
Yeah, I think his name's Chuck. She's like, hold me, Chuck. By the way, I would just want to say, I'd be fucked in this scenario where the dead come back, in this, because I literally live across from a giant graveyard. In fact, there's so many graves in this graveyard that they are currently expanding it out to make like a special veterans area for like dead veterans or whatever. So in the case where something like this happened and it's a graveyard that gets impacted, like first and foremost, I would be dead within seconds. There would be hundreds of people at my house ready to carry.
Speaking of that graveyard, two more things that stick out to me.
Dead by dawn, more like dead by 10, right? Yeah.
Obviously, this is purposeful because it's it's supposed to be a comedy movie as well. But don't know if I would trust a cemetery called Resurrection Cemetery.
Oh, that's right. It's called Resurrection Cemetery.
Right?
I mean, a little bit too on the nose there about what's going to happen, and
it's also Resurrection Funeral Home.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, that too. I mean, obviously the funeral home's connected to the cemetery. I'm assuming he owns both. Yeah. Also, the medical supply store getting their bodies from, I mean, obviously because they have to for legal reasons, but they literally are across the street from a cemetery and they're getting bodies shipped to them from India.
Yeah.
Well, think about why do they have so many perfect teeth in India?
I was just listening
that's a very weird scene. Yes,
it spends a lot of time on it too. Which is
I'm re-listening to Reaganland right now, and they were talking about how the FTC in 1978 or something scrapped a regulation that would have made body snatching illegal. So you might think that in this scenario they're doing
right now. I'm doing the invasion of the body snatcher thing. Anyway.
Who is
you mean the movie Lied?
This has been sticking with me though. Who is Yellow Man? He said it in the
Is that
the dude who's yellow? What do you think it is?
Yeah, the zombie that was
it sounds super racist. Yeah.
You couldn't make Yellow Man today.
No, but who was
the one who's
in the
hanging
movie?
in the freezer?
He's
the
yellow.
cadaver.
Yeah, it's the one
What
that-
is-
it's the
why
one
is he
that
call him the
sprints out.
cadaver?
Yeah,
He's yellow.
He's not yellow. He's.
I mean, you know, it's like in Sin City when that yellow bastard shows up. You call him that yellow bastard.
he's kind of just normal Caucasian. I don't
These
know.
are the Letterboxd one-liners for the Return of the Living Dead. Of course, follow movie night extravaganza on Letterboxd. That's Forrest, your host over there. You can follow me, Conan Neutron, Incremental Brains. I'm all over there as well. Return of the Living Dick. AKA G. Andrew World over there is watching all the weirdest stuff, so you don't have to, or maybe so you can. I don't know. I'm not one to judge. Kristina Oakes, the birthday ghoul down there. She's predominantly Johnny Depp focused, but she's also.
I might do Gerard Butler next, just to be like, all his movies are the same.
But please follow her as well as all of our lovely feature guests and so on. Matt, you're not on Letterboxd, right? I don't have to like.
I'm not on Letterboxd. I mean, I think I am,
You don't have
but
to
I don't
be.
use it. I don't use
I
it.
just don't want to like exclude you from the shout
Well,
out.
I couldn't find you just a moment ago, so
There you go. No, don't worry. I probably have never even used it. That's why.
Letterboxd, the place for film, not sponsored by Letterboxd. J. Andrew World, take us away. Return of the Living Dick. Give us the plugs.
all right. You're watching us on YouTube right now. Please do the YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell, and a big ask. But this way, it helps other movie fans find us. Watch the video to it at the end. We give you a great Conan Neutron song special for this month of zombies. Watch the end. That helps us in the algorithm. Follow us on Twitter as which is also Movie Night Extra, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, it
I
is.
think it's spelled out on Instagram, and it's
That's
Well,
what
someone
throws
else
me
with
off.
Movie Night Extravaganza, they have one follower and they like joined Twitter in like I don't know, they joined Twitter a while back. You know, fuck that person.
Yeah.
right.
But yes.
Andy, please continue.
We also have a community on Twitter if you'd like to join. We'll
And mostly see Andy posting about whatever he was watching. But
yeah,
It's real
you
good,
know,
though.
which this week was a weird Steven Seagal movie.
Great. So if you're looking for that, join that.
Yeah, no, but no, Emo Dragon posts whatever he's watching, and it's always fun to see like
The fans post more than Forrest than I do.
and I post polls to see who's seen the movie that we're about to talk about. So
the polls are very clever. The polls,
yes, yeah, I spend a lot of time coming up with the question, the answers to the polls.
Join for the movies, stay for the polls. Thank you.
Yes. We also have a Patreon, and on Patreon we do the Patreon things where we collect your money.
Oh, is that the thing that we do on Patreon? Huh. Okay.
I spoke myself into a corner there.
You sure did. I saw it. I was like, what's he doing with this? Can't wait to see.
I had no way out. But the nice thing about the Patreon is that you have access to the after parties forever.
Yep. And we're after party forever. We need,
we'll get it right
we need
back.
we need a composer to get us on point with this.
You know what? I'll work on it after I do the election month theme.
It could be the election month theme.
Sure. We'll see. We'll see where the day takes us. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Conan, you got Protonic Reversal this week. Who's coming up as your guest?
Mark Davies of Thinking Fellows Union, Local 282. Of course, the Guy Picciotto Fugazi episode still doing massive numbers, so that's still available. And
still totally worth watching if you got the time.
Especially if you like. Exactly. It is about 2 hours and 45 minutes of talking, so it's pretty long. Also, the Microwaves episode, which was Patreon only, is on the general feed now. So if you're interested in the Pittsburgh noise rock band Microwaves, which I'm sure everybody is, I mean, it's a Pittsburgh happy month, really. It's zombies, right? Then check that out. But yeah, it's and there's some other pretty rad stuff coming up. As per normal, PlatonicReversal.com. Thank you.
And let's see, you got Dangerous Nomenclature, which is your most recent album on vinyl, which you can order on Bandcamp. Plus, you have Action Chief, Just the Solos, which is also out there. And do you have any shows coming up? Because I think
it is also out there. Yes, Andy. Yes, it is. It's also out there.
Yeah, Bandcamp. it's actionchief.bandcamp.com.
literally just got back from tour yesterday from that run East Coast States where Forrest had the picture from earlier. We're redoing the Oakland date with McCluskey in November 27th. It's like the weekend after Thanksgiving. We're playing LA, somewhere else, and that. And then we're playing Madison, we're playing Chicago, and I think that's it for the year. So shouldn't be any more disruption to this show. Thank God.
Unless Andy never stops the plugs, you know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, these plugs are going to be good until 2023, and we're not even out of mine yet.
But yeah, I mean, we're spending so much time focusing on yours.
Commuter video, too. Well, I do a lot of shit, man. I'm sorry.
Yes. No, it's great. Sorry. Commuter video by friend of the show, Mark Borchardt.
Borchardt from American Movie. Yeah, he's did the video. It's good to be into that kind of thing.
Yes. Hopefully he comes back on soon.
Yeah.
And Kristina, you had a big stream today.
Yes.
And you're going to go back to streaming after this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a big long birthday stream, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So this could be a different conversation out of context, by the way.
Yeah.
Man, R. Kelly and the big birthday stream.
Yes. Well, so not too far where I was going to go. But anyways, if you want to catch that stream later, or anytime you want to catch Kristina, she's over on Twitch.
Our buddy Clueless Ron has been clipping me constantly, and a lot of those are about my desire for Sam Cedar. So like,
jeez, oh my god,
that was last
year. And also, she has a Patreon, and it'd be great for her birthday to get some patrons.
So give her some goddamn money, people.
Oh, Matt, I would really love to interview you for my Patreon page, by the way. Like,
yeah,
sure.
So
cool. No pressure. Just ask you on air. Yeah.
I'm just saying,
don't worry about it all the time, anytime.
Keep thinking, sweet.
There you go. I've been on. It's good.
She's awesome. We were like, it's only gonna be 30 minutes, but then we talked for like an hour and a half.
Exactly. Well, we decided we had a shared brain later on, so that all worked out well.
Yeah.
And Matt, you have a bunch of shows, which I know about Doomed, which I didn't know about the other shows until the intro, and I'm like, what's wrong with my life missing that?
Yeah, so as always, you could watch the live streams at youtube.com/MattBinder. I also multi-stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/MattBinder. And I got 2 shows, Doomed, like you mentioned, with Matt Binder, that basically talks politics, focuses on right-wing media, the far right movements, right-wing conspiracy theories, and that's at doomedcast.com for the podcast version of that show. And then I also have a anti-cryptocurrency show called Scam Economy. I just started that one earlier this year. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of people seem to enjoy that one because it's one of like 2 podcasts that talk about crypto and are
there's like none that do it. Yeah, it's kind of amazing.
There's tons that talk about it, but they're trying to sell you the
right
bullshit.
That are not they don't have like an AS
and so that's at scameconomy.com for the podcast version of that show. And like you guys mentioned earlier, I am also on the Majority Report every Thursday. It was Tuesday this week because Sam is going to be streaming on the show live from this lawyer conference he goes to every year on Thursday. So I was on earlier today for my weekly Majority Report appearance.
Well,
I'm just picturing Sam
Majority Report.
I'm picturing Sam walking around trying to find like a good divorce lawyer again. He's like walking around the whole. He's live streaming. He's
been doing that thing for a long time, man. Like it's been like over 10 years, if I remember right. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, he's been doing the Majority. Well, it started on Air America, and I think it was 2004.
It was the old show. Yeah.
Yeah, and then as the show he does now online, he started that in 2010.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
But so I wanted to make sure that we got Andy to do the plugs before. He's been not feeling well, so I figured so we can keep talking about Return of the Living Dead. I just figured that
or Return of the Living Dick, if that's your speed.
I just figured I don't
parody.
I don't. That's the porno version. So I have this clip about Clue Gallagher, and the like tension between Dan O'Bannon and him, and honestly, Clue, I guess, not getting the film, and later on, I watched something where he said that like he thinks that it's actually art, and it's like one of the few films that he'll ever get that he ever had the chance to do that's like pure art, and like there was something that he doesn't think should have been able to get made, but it was, and he's really proud of it. But this is about the actual process of filming, where he didn't get the he didn't get what they were making.
Well, here's the thing about Clue. First of all, he cares very deeply about his work. And he was not at all certain about this film. I mean, how can you know what the film's going to be like unless you're the director and have it in your head? So this could have very easily been a piece of crap, throwaway horror movie. And this had him worried. That was one problem. The other problem was he didn't get hired until the last minute. We were having a hard time finding somebody to play, the owner of the medical warehouse. An older man who was handsome and knew how to present himself on screen and how to hold the screen. And we weren't paying much, and And so I didn't meet him until he walked on this set. Okay, the first night of shooting. Everybody else, as you will recall, I had a couple of weeks of rehearsal. All those scenes of you guys together yelling and screaming were, in fact, as you know, very carefully choreographed. People see the film, they think it's just a lot of yelling. Well, as you recall, once I had you guys together, I said, here are the specific words and phrasing I want to hear. Okay? You all mark it in your script. The rest, you can yell and scream at the same time, but be sure to let this word or phrase come through. So it was a lot of rehearsal. It was very beneficial. I was thrilled with the result on the screen. It looked just like what I wanted it to look like. It looked chaotic. It looked like ad-libbing. It looked like yelling and screaming, but you heard every necessary word. Clue had no rehearsal. Clue had no introduction to me. Clue had nothing. He walked cold onto the set, and it was a scene which was later in the movie, and it required a very high level of energy on the part of the actors. And Clue hadn't had a single opportunity to work up to the level that I needed. And I rarely do this. I know that Lacazan did it a lot. I know that Oliver Stone does it, which is to make an actor uncomfortable in order to get a result. I needed Clue to get to the highest level of energy. This is near the end of the film where everybody's driving around, smashing into things and running. And they needed him to get there instantly. So he mounted the camera on the front of his car, and he got in the car with Spider, and this was the first shot, and they were supposed to drive like crazy, and just before it rolled, I went over to Miguel and I whispered in his ear. I said, once that car is rolling, once it's up to speed, I want you to tell Clue to fuck himself. Okay? Because I thought that would make Clue so mad that it would instantly pop him up to the level I need. It worked, but it started Clue off on a kind of a sour note there. He was not happy. And through the whole filming, Clue didn't have a clue. He did not know what kind of film was being made, and it worried him. Appropriately. He blew up at me a couple times on the set. I actually got to the point. You say Beverly was scared of me. I got to where I was scared of Clue, and he was carrying around this piece of lead pipe. And I thought, what if Clue comes after me with that lead pipe? So I told him to substitute a rubber pipe. So if he came after me, he'd be hitting me with rubber. But it didn't work because Flu picked it up and said, "This doesn't have the right weight. I can't work with this. Where's the real problem?" And so I said, "Oh, please, Flu, don't kill me." And I gave him the right thing. Now, film gets finished. We have cast and crew screening. Clue comes out of that screening. All smiles. He was beaming. He came over to me. We hugged each other. He saw what the film was at last, and he liked it. He saw that it was a respectable film, that it made him look good. For my part, I saw that he gave a terrific performance. Just what I wanted, only better. So under those conditions, everything is forgiven on both sides.
So it's interesting he mentions that, because when Edgar Wright was doing interviews for Shaun of the Dead, which we're also covering later this month, he said one of the things he doesn't like about Return of the Living Dead is how there's so much yelling. Everyone's always yelling all the time and screaming. Like, and then like he specifically didn't care for that and chose to like make an aesthetic choice not to have it. People do that.
You're tearing me apart. Oh, wrong.
Which is,
tearing me apart.
Which kind of makes it funny that he made that he made that movie. What the fuck is the name of it? Where the guy's like deaf and listening to the music the entire time.
Oh, Baby Driver.
Yeah, Baby Driver has a lot of
full like half the cast is incredibly problematic, but it's a great movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's kind of filled with like high octane sound for a lot.
It's all needle drops. Yeah.
Yeah. but yeah, keep going.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was notable because Edgar Wright specifically didn't like that, but it was an aesthetic decision because there's a lot of yelling. There's a lot of yelling in this movie.
And I like that they rehearsed it.
Wouldn't you be yelling though?
It's like a reasonable thing to do. Yeah.
I will say, I'm glad you played this clip because this is a thought I actually had when I was rewatching the movie this past week. First time in maybe a couple 2 or 3 years. It really hit me like just how well done the movie is. Like usually you could be talking about one of these. Like I love all horror movies, but there's obviously big jumps in production value in a lot of horror films, especially horror films that sort of dive into the schlock and everything like that. The production value may not always be the greatest, and the acting may not always be its best.
Just Linnea Quigley, right? Her filmography, because she's the scream queen of B movies, pretty much. Like her filmography is a giant jump between like amazingly scary shit and then
total trash. Like her character was named correctly because she's in a lot of trash.
The production values,
she is not trash.
the right, the production values, the look of the film, the feel of the film, the acting, the story, the commitment to making the story seem legit, even though it's a very horrific story while still injecting comedy into it. It's really solid. Like everything is really good. Like the film holds up. There's nothing that's like, oh, they had to do this this way because it was the the 80s. No, it's a great movie.
and it's
got a huge budget.
It's a classic structuring of a comedic act, because something like look at like Airplane, right, where they have Leslie Nielsen in that movie plays like the straight man, like different than the yellow man, of course, but Leslie Nielsen plays like the straight man, and there's there's characters. There's always one character that has to be like the straight man, which is Clue's character in this, and they have to actually act as if things are serious, and then there's always one character that's kind of like whiny and then can do the comedy, and that's the Frank character where he's like, oh, just do it already, like freaking out. So they structure the actual comedy to it as like a comedy duo, like they're throwing back and forth.
And it works so well. Those same actors come back for the second one to play different characters, but it's basically the same. We're just like, no, just do the same thing, but these are different dudes now.
Well, they got nuked, so you can't really,
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but also speaking of that point, let's also remember Clue was what was the Virginian. That's the big thing that he was in, right? So it's like he's a pretty staunch kind of old Hollywood guy, but not an A-list actor. So it's kind of funny that to have him be sort of needled.
Well, he was an A-list actor, kind of just. At a time decades before this, right?
That's my exact point. Is he's from a different time. That is literally the point. Is that Virginian was 60s, right, if I remember correctly, and like basically a different era of like of entertainment, let alone like movie making, let alone the idea that like, I mean, I'm just wondering like how they like did they give him the script like.
Well, so,
like I mean, it's
So let me see. If
I
I
would
can
love
find
to
it.
know the answer to that because
Let me try to see if I can find it because this is 5. I don't want
because it almost seems like we talked about a little bit about Ed Wood and about like Bela Lugosi having like kind of fallen on hard times, not really being able to get work, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
It's a similar
Yeah, so I don't want to play the full. So this is him talking about it.
Okay, cool. I don't want to immediately jump to. I want to know how do you end up. How do you end up here?
He was kind of a short version of this. He was at the sunset of his career, right? Like he had kind of played all the cowboy roles. The thing that he does best is that like he's kind of almost like a Burt Reynolds.
He was in Winning with Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward.
So he got the script late. Let me see if I can. I mean, I just won't play the whole thing. I guess
Which is like a racing movie.
Does Nightmare on Elm Street 2 come up in this?
People. They were just from here and yonder. Somehow it meshed, and it became a work of art.
Dan, who had never directed, I don't think before, was open to suggestions from old timers. But a lot of the kids were young and inexperienced. I think a few of them, it was their first movie. He talked Tom Fox into doing the best thing in the world. He talked Tom into paying for a week or two of rehearsal.
The picture has that improv feeling because dialogue is snapping all over the place. We rehearsed for a couple of weeks, real tight.
And we did it in sequence, just as though you were doing a play. And it was marvelous because we all had an emotional map as we went through the picture shooting out of sequence. We knew where we were emotionally and our timbre of the moment.
You know, I think it's time you tell us what the fuck's going on. I don't have to tell you anything, Dick Brain. We think you should.
Working with Clue and Jimmy Caron and Don Calfa was such a thrill for me because I was well aware of, all three of them and their previous work. I was a huge Poltergeist fan, so Jimmy Caron to me was, the guy who moved the headstones but left the bodies. And Don Calfa I remembered from 10 and all sorts of stuff. Clue Gallagher I had watched in Westerns when I was a kid. So that was really exciting for me to work with them.
When actors are going down, when their career has more or less come to the sunset, that's when they take these types of films in those days. One day I asked the director, Dan O'Bannon, I said, Dan, how come you chose me for this part? He said, well, what other leading man would you have chosen? I mean, who would you have gotten? And I thought, and I knew he was talking about money and availability and all of that. I said, you're right, I can't think of anyone.
I was really excited about when I heard that he was going to do it because I'd seen him do so many marvelous things. And he's terrific in the picture.
Calfa and I worked together a lot. He played one of the greatest characters I've ever seen. He had a weapon and a holster like a fast draw artist. He had a pipe. And it was just so inventive.
Dan has a very kinky sense of humor. Weaponry, we talked about it, and he said they just do it the best, the Germans. The weaponry is extraordinary. Originally, he wanted to give me a broom-handled Mauser, which was sold to the Chinese, long, unwieldy, pulling it out of a holster. We went with the P-38.
Crazy Don Calfa. Crazy Don Calfa. He was so crazy and so wonderful, and is.
So it's basically what I thought it was. Okay. Yeah. I mean,
that explains why it's, even for how over the top it is, how it's so good and feels so, legit, because these old school, real deal, like experienced veteran actors took it really fucking seriously for the type of movie it was. If every actor took every movie that serious, regardless of what it was, every friggin' movie would be amazing, and no matter what sort of storyline or over the top, development it has.
And why is Jeffrey Combs so great in everything he is? Because everything he does, he treats it totally seriously. He's just an intense dude.
But it makes a lot of sense why. I mean, it doesn't make it, but like, that he's older in this movie, and that's why they cast him. But he lived another 30. Like he died this year, so he lived.
He was in Piranha 3 Double D, by the way, which is an exploitation film that, as you can imagine by the title.
Also, Dan O'Bannon, the reason that he knew all the names of the guns.
I don't know how I know that, by the way.
And he was going so hard with like trying to figure out what gun to use and like this whole image that he was looking for. He was one of those crazy people that like stocked up. He said he had 10 fucking like pistols in his house.
He's a prepper? Was he a prepper?
Yeah, he was a prepper. But then he said finally he got married. Like before this, but like like,
get rid of this shit.
Made money, so he had to get rid of 9 of his 10 guns, and then he had a kid, so he got rid of the last one, and now he's like a normal human being. But like it makes
he's no longer an ammosexual, actually.
Well, he also had made Alien at that point, and like he was getting really famous overnight. Like
he wrote Alien. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, he came in through Jabberwocky's Dune.
Why did we talked about a lot of stuff since then?
Yeah, because if you remember Jabberwocky's Dune, he was like the
he was
people with Mobius.
Wait, did you say Jabberwocky's Dune?
Am I saying that wrong? I'm
Jodorowsky.
Jodorowsky.
No, you're definitely saying that wrong.
Jabberwocky's Dune. Jabberwocky's Dune.
See, don't worry, Matt. It's not only he comes at for stuff. It's
you're not feeling well. I'll cut you some slack, but Jabberwocky's Dune is.
Yeah, John.
I just figured I'd flap my lips and just let whatever.
No, but he.
But yeah, no, and he also worked with like
he had to bankroll his own work in that. So he ended up flat broke and actually almost homeless,
and was working for Heavy Metal Magazine or Metal Hurlant in France with Mobius.
Jabberwocky's Dude. Oh yeah, who can forget the classic film? Sorry.
To be fair, I actually did an episode of Scam Economy on that book because there was this DAO. There's a group of crypto people who got together to buy it, thinking they'd own the rights to it just by buying a copy of this rare book. And then they found out the hard way that that's not exactly what it was. But long story short, for the purpose of this discussion, I made sure not to pronounce his name as often as I could because I was very close to always saying Jodorowsky's Dude.
Yeah. I mean, like Jodorowsky's like it took me like, look, I butchered that. And I'm the guy that like, look, my name's Conan. Like I've got like no ground to stand on, right? But like I try to get people's names right. But Jabberwocky is that's pretty good.
But yeah, and then
I feel like I'm actually surprised that no one's used Jabberwocky, like the Lewis Carroll poem. Yeah. I'm surprised no one's used that as a crypto thing yet, because it's such a nonsense.
Jabberwocky coin,
like it's such a nonsense poem that like I could see somebody being like, okay, we're gonna use this and it's gonna have some
Jabberwockies are gone.
And by that I mean the Federal was like the gold standard. The Federal Reserve replaced the gold standard, and that's why we need Jabberwocky coin to get us back to that place. And it's backed by 100% gold from the gold reserve.
Right, 100% Jabberwocky.
Which,
blood.
By the way, we're launching on Friday.
Right, exactly. Tune in, folks. What? I'm sorry, Andy. Before I just mercilessly mocked you, did you have a point with any of that?
No, I was just
Dragon.
Dan O'Bannon, had kind of a long, was busy doing other stuff too.
I would lead with, don't you know who I am? I wrote Alien. Like, I mean, start with that, and then like I directed Return of the Living Dead. Like, is like
he also script doctored Blade Runner.
Yeah.
No shit, really?
Yeah, yeah. He came in towards the end of filming because like some stuff wasn't quite working out, and he was one of the script doctors, and that's where he kind of really got into Philip K. Dick, and he bought the rights to what would become Total Recall and Screamers.
Oh, yeah. That's super cool. I didn't know any of that.
But he was mainly known just as like a writer. It's also interesting that Alien, he and his roommate wrote as a short story, like on their floor. Like, and this is between the time Dune had crashed. He wrote it out on his floor with his roommate, and they wrote it as a short story and then sold it. So they're actually the reason that Alien, like the original Alien, like it's their entire concept.
Did we talk about any of this when we did Alien? I don't remember. It's too long.
I think we did. I think we did briefly.
We touched on it.
I don't remember what happened last week, let alone what happened last year.
No, I mean, it's like one of the few times I get to mention, like Metal Hurlant and which I am saying that right? The French version of heavy metal.
I don't know. I took German.
Oh, okay. Anyways,
I'm like the Nazi cremator, apparently.
I still can't get over that.
I'm blown away.
Yeah,
I learned something.
I can't stop thinking about that. Yeah.
And I didn't say Morbius instead of Mobius, right?
The Morbius strip.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I like the whole Mauser thing, and he's like, oh, it's the gun that they sold to the Chinese, the Germans at the time, and then they replaced it by this gun, and it's like, dude, so this like is straight up like a Nazi.
I can't believe I never caught any of that.
He has the leather coat. He has the fucking Nazi coat.
No, I get it
he
now.
Comes out in, and I didn't even pick up on that really necessarily. Like the fact that is like the fucking Nazi coat that he's wearing when he goes out there with the fucking Mauser.
Yeah, I can't believe as many times I've seen this, I never caught that. I'm usually pretty perceptive, but
he's that one guy that made it. What the fuck is his name? That they did the trials for that ended up in Argentina.
The guy that made it political. I got to make it political.
But with that, starting with Matt, final thoughts about this movie, and anything that we didn't get to or anything.
Final thoughts about we didn't get to the zombie on the
take your time. Do whatever you want.
The surgery, whatever it's
called. That's an incredible scene. You're right. Yeah.
Yes. When they're asking why do you eat brains, and she's going, the pain, the pain. It's in the again the
pretty wild.
It's obviously puppetry because the character, I mean, is smaller than a human being at this point, and doesn't have the lower portion of their body. And it's just fantastic visual, and
that scene's always going to hit different now though, because when he actually asks like, oh, it hurts to be dead, and he looks around like that, I just assumed he was like thinking about his own mortality or whatever, but like now with
it literally hurts.
Yeah.
Well, it also I always looked at it as he's a mortician, so he's the one opening people up when they're dead. So that's how that connected to me. Like, oh, he's gonna think like I'm hurting these people when I'm opening them up to embalm them and whatever, But the Nazi thing, oh my god.
My dream job was to be a mortician.
Snow Miser 17 called it.
Well, the makeup artist for the bodies, at least.
What else do you guys think is behind that? I mean, the notion of like pain through death, right? Like, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me in the sense of like, why do zombies seek people out, like to eat them? And it's just the brains in this case, but it's like, oh, well, that is the cure, and there's like drug crises, I guess, kind of skyrocketing at this point. It's like, 1985, it's the middle of, Reagan's second term. So it does, I guess, it makes a lot of sense in that way. But like, you guys think that there's kind of almost like a deeper meaning, like a collective consciousness almost that that brings us into the feeling of collective pain in this sense? Or do you think that it's just kind of an explanation that they came up with?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that movie intends to get that deep.
I don't think it intends to do any of those things. But like, I think the fact that it brushes up against it is what makes it a classic.
Right. I mean, we could go back and talk about Tarman some more. I mean, just fantastic character.
Your time, bud.
Like we didn't get to this. I know they mentioned it in the clip. The movement of Tarman is really it's fantastic.
Yeah,
even the way he when he talks, when he says, "Oh, more brains," the way he moves his neck back and snaps it forward. I mean,
so this is the actual guy talking about the motions.
Oh,
that he put
we're gonna see what the actor who
it's way
played
cuter
Tarman
when
looks
Kristina
like.
does it, but it's because there's an actor doing it, like they were saying.
Right.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. So this is the actual guy.
That's a GIF right there. That's a react or a emote or whatever the hell you call it. I don't give a
I didn't know that Andy was not going to be feeling well, so I like put things into after party folders and main show folders. But this is a clip that I found that I was going to bring up in the after party.
Just don't click on the Return of the Living Dick folder, and you'll be fine.
It's the Tarman actor, and he's like a well credited actor too. Like, it's not like
if this dude has an English accent, I'm gonna literally shit.
Tarman. Let me tell you, the Tarman character. Let me tell you.
The thing about the Tarman is,
I was walking in the slums of London, and I just said, it would be crazy if there was some guy covered in muck and dirt.
I auditioned for the role just like all the other actors did. It wasn't anything special.
Oh my God.
I remember going into the audition and being.
I like Alan Troutman. That's a good name. That's a good name for the guy that plays the Tarman.
Yeah, it's good. It almost
told,
looks
well,
like
this is a
Tarman.
little bit different. It's not a regular, kind of a role. I remember Dan saying that he really wanted to see the Tarman character thinking. He didn't want it just to be this big lumbering monster. And the other thing he told me, of course, was about the physicality, that he was just sort of being held together by goop and hardly anything at all. And that if he would make the wrong move, he would just completely fall apart.
That whole movement that he did, that dancer's body that he has.
In my mind, it's sort of a feeling of like, well, if I lean a little bit too far one way or the other, I'm just going to break in half and that'll be the end of it. So it was sort of like this. I remember thinking of it as sort of a balancing act. Like if I went a little too far, I would fall over. But if I just sort of kept everything, it's like, when you put balance a broom in your palm of your hand like this, that type of thing. And that's sort of the what was going through my mind in terms of the movement, I guess.
I didn't see Alan before. I think they had put up drapes, and because Dan wanted me to be very scared when I saw this outfit he was wearing. And so I didn't get to meet him. I didn't get to see anything until we actually shot this. And it was good. It was a great costume. It was wonderful. And his body movements were so unique that you just couldn't help but react to it.
That poor weepy girl who had to just cry all the time.
There's a lot of screaming in this movie. He's right.
Yes. And he was Fran Sinclair from Dinosaurs.
Really?
Oh, wow.
I didn't have that on my bingo card.
I did find it funny when I forgot who just said it, but it's someone in the documentary just said, to see him with that dancer's body, and then they cut to him how he looks today. Not really someone who you picture with a dancer's body.
Yeah. Well, hey.
By the way, the chat just sent the second best compliment I think we've gotten on the show. I keep a notebook handy when listening to the show. People are always suggesting excellent stuff. That's what we're here to do. The first best compliment I think is when we've had actual directors be like, no one's asked me that question before. I always feel like that's the height, but this is a close second.
Yeah, thank you, Si. Appreciate that.
But yeah, it is crazy to see that guy be like, yeah, that's a dancer's body. Like he looks like looks like either he would be like an extra in like one of those Ghostbusters or something like that. I think he looks like one of those.
It's just like that guy.
Or like my orthodontist or something.
You mean Ghostbusters or Andy's orthodontist? One of the other.
Alan Troutman, DDS.
The jaw that they I would love to know. I'm sure they've talked about it somewhere, but the effects they use for him to speak, because that's obviously. Unlike most zombies,
yeah,
you just
it's
take
like
on some prosthetics. Yeah, this is like a legit, this is a legit costume he's wearing, and that mouth movement is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we talked about it here, but this is the other production design clip that I found where they're talking about actually designing these zombies. I pulled a lot of stuff for this. I watched through a lot of it. There's also a lot of convention footage.
This is the second clip during Matt's final thoughts, but that's fine.
I mean, I don't know. I wanted to see if everyone had, the conversation kind of went all over the place. So I wanted
his final thoughts are like a whole little mini show.
I know one of the hesitancies that Dan had about hiring me originally was he was very familiar with my work because we were both mutual friends of Ron Cobb, and we'd see each other at parties, and Dan had seen my dinosaur book. He was very confident I'd have no trouble designing the corpses. His concern was that I wouldn't know how to do any high-tech stuff, high-tech design. And then I did a comic book cover called Alien Worlds. And it showed a spaceman being sucked into the ground with all these little creatures surrounding him. And Dan looked at the detail in the spacesuit and he said, hey, Stout can do high-tech. And that's when he decided to put me on the short list for production designer.
I knew right away I had to have some very strong artist to design the stuff in the picture. It had to have a look, and it had to be a capable artist. And I've always tended to go more toward a good artist rather than a movie professional designer. And so I thought of Bill Stout. asked him. He said he'd like to do it, and we got together and we just sort of thought our way through the thing and built wonderful, wonderful, wonderful designs, some of which we were able to pull off very much to my satisfaction. Like, for example, the Tar Man, that black, drippy, skeletal guy. I mean, we got that right. I don't know if Bill still has the artwork he did for it, but it was quite gorgeous in a hideous way, and I think we did it justice. Pressure of time, budget, it was a very low-budget picture. The rest of the corpses, we had a very specific vision. We wanted them to look like actual dead mummies like you would see in Guanajuato. I like to do as much of the design and effects as possible before you do the principal photography. It wasn't fully possible, but yeah, I got Bill right away. We got cranking on this stuff.
Dan's a really smart guy and a really good storyteller. And as I said, he's very visual. Usually as production designer, I'm usually the first person that a director hires because they want to get a really good visual hook on the film early on so that we're saving money. We're not wandering all around visually trying to find out what this film is going to look like. Dan was smart enough to do that. We didn't have a whole lot of lead time. I ended up working 7 days a week. I think I took half Saturday off, but the other days were 18-hour days minimum. It was pretty grueling. I just figured that's what I had to do. Plus also working on the other films, that's what I saw the other production designers do. So I figured if I was doing anything less than that, I was not really working my full job and benefiting the film as I could.
Challenges.
Nice.
That's where he says there's a lot of challenges, kind of neutron and neutron and neutron and neutron of challenges.
Oh yeah, there's a clip.
I guess it's later on that he says the Tarman design like goes through it, but yeah, I think it's really interesting.
Anyway, he rattles on for a bit. It's pretty cool. But
the first clip that he does, they're talking about it, where he talks about how he actually got the idea from the way that actual mummies and like these preserved creatures actually are designed kind of fascinated me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So,
bolos are better than bow ties. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, in closing, I guess. I think this is really.
We actually have a clip of your closing right here.
Oh yeah, play that extra clip, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Pause it.
I mean,
Pause it.
I really do think this is like the premier zombie movie, modern zombie movie. I think anyone who leaves this film out of the discussion of how we got to the modern day zombie that created a world that sees zombie movie after zombie movie, now zombie video games, zombie TV series. That doesn't include this movie, which I feel like this movie gets left out a lot of discussion. It's sort of leaving behind the whole major influence that this movie, left with its creation.
And it's a whole franchise.
The other ones, the second one is fun with that. The second one, the only one thing that really stands out for me, the second one. I mean, it's a good movie, but the thing that really stands out is the end with the Michael Jackson zombie that does the weird, like when he gets electrocuted, does the weird dance.
Yeah.
But
and a great poster.
Yeah. But I mean,
the third one has
nothing redeemable. No,
no, there is something redeemable. Andrew World, which is the actress is incredibly beautiful.
No, I think that we talked about this last week when the after party. Kind of the idea of like it's kind of terrifying. Obviously, the Romero version of it, which he changes in Day of the Dead. But like the idea that something's coming at you and you can't understand why it's coming at you. And that kind of being the intensely scary part of the Romero zombies, I think.
But here it's literally telling you, like, look, I'm going to eat your brain, and I'm going to eat it, and that's why I'm coming.
They're really smart too. Yeah. That's another thing. Yeah, they're grabbing the walkie-talkies to call for more paramedics and more cops. They're setting up traps to overwhelm them. Yep. The ability to they're just nonstop. You can't hide from them. There's no way to get rid of them. When Freddy turns, he's able to climb the ladder and get into the attic. Tarman is able to set up a whole contraption to rip a door off the hinges. I mean,
Which is another Nazi
they're
thing. Like
legit.
they're literally hiding in the attic. He has an attic crawl space ready to go for them to hide up in. If you're going through the,
because apparently he's a Nazi, which we learned tonight. So,
but birthday girl, let's hear some final thoughts.
So again, when I first watched this movie, I was not expecting a full-blown, punk comedy. The fact that this is not like a big dramatic movie, actually, in my opinion, kind of makes sense because it kind of takes, something different with like the zombie genre in general, which I like. It gives more wiggle room to do more than just what Romero does. I think even though the acting could be a bit over dramatic, they all knew what they were doing in the end. And in my opinion, it's probably surprisingly one of the best zombie movies, to be quite honest. So I give it 12 out of 10 brains.
I knew that's what you were gonna. I was like, I was gonna be pissed if you were at like 12 out of 10 brains.
Gotcha. It's the law. It's required by law.
But Conan, let's hear the final thoughts.
Look, I had a big old chip on my shoulder about this movie for a long time as a younger man. I don't really understand why, because I watched it later. I was like, oh no, this is great. I think part of it was I wasn't ready for the comedic elements of it. Later, Cemetery Man, Dead Alive, et cetera, sort of rewired my brain. And I came back to it and was able to appreciate how badass it is. But also, the thing that I focused on this most recent rewatch for the show was, holy crap, what, like, as far as like daunting power levels for like creatures to be up against, like this is like you're screwed. There's, again, containment is the only option. This is like on the level of murder extravaganza, Cabin in the Woods. Containment, like literally, like you're gonna mitigate your damage. Like, okay, so we're gonna blow up Louisville to save the rest of literally the world, because there is no stopping any of these. And the fact that they are, as mentioned, not just like, intelligent, but like actually like cagey about it, goes back to the I Am Legend conversation, which all this stuff started from the Richard Matheson book. And the fact that they were like cagey and they were like, surreptitious about how they would try to achieve their goals. And this is the only time you really see that in zombie universe movies. That kind of like went away for most. And there's exceptions to prove the rule, but as far as like an oncoming horde that like have like human like intelligence and canniness and can like plan and like lure people into traps and things along those lines, and are also ostensibly indestructible, you're boned, humanity. It's over, yeah. Johnny. And it's like, despite the fact that tonally, like I like, again, first time I saw it, I was not stoked about the tone. I love it now. I mean, obviously now, I'm super into it. What quibbles I have with it, I think also can be endearing also. And I think that includes, as mentioned, like the sort of over dramatic moments that happen with it. And this is a classic. And I'm really glad that we included it. And I'm glad that Matt came on for it, because it's good to have someone that has a deep love for it for the discussion.
It's the opposite of having the girls from These Are Bad Movies on.
Wasn't gonna say it. Wasn't on the episode.
I was about to say it too.
Wait, did I miss some sort of drama? What happened? Gotta know.
Oh my god! They do not like any film.
No,
we can say we don't need to talk about this on. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. We love Amy and Amanda.
I invite them on for movies I like, and then they shit all over those movies every single time. And they're like, "Oh, we hate this movie," but don't tell me that they hate this movie until they're actually on air. They're like, here's
that's smart. That makes for great content. They did the right thing. They did the right thing.
I think people were pissed though, because they came on for Midsummer, and everybody in the chat was like, "But I like
super
Midsummer."
stoked here." Yeah.
Like, we're just getting messages from other people like, "What the hell's going on here?"
And that was one I was gone for tour on, and like I was actually listening in, and I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Banging your head against the wheel.
Yeah. Midsummer, another one of those movies. Good movie. A little bit over, credits a little bit much. It's a good movie, but it's good.
Right.
No, I think that is 100% an overrated movie, because Hereditary was such a mind blowing thing, and I think Midsummer was less mind blowing than Hereditary was. But at the same time, I mean, I don't have it. Like, I like that movie. Like, it's a.
You know what? You want movie blew my mind? The horror movie I seen the past year that blew my mind, and I still think about it all the time.
Lay it on us. Go ahead.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
Ready?
Yep.
Malignant.
Malignant, aka Basket Case 2021.
What?
No, I like Malignant. Malignant was good.
There's a movie that's like it that I missed.
Basket Case.
Basket
Watch.
Case?
Well, it's not. I don't know if you can say it's like
There's
it.
a lot.
There's-
I really
The Zach
wanna-
Galifianakis show.
I can't wait till we talk about
You guys know
Pearl.
Basket Case? This is like classic, like Z grade horror.
Yeah, no, I know it.
I know you know it, Andy. Come on. I mean, if you didn't know, I mean, come on. I mean, this is like the kind of movie that, like, of course, Andy watched that. But Basket Case, is pretty good. But Malignant's good. But if you watch Basket Case, like, wow, it's like high budget hot girl Basket Case. Anyway,
I'll have to check it out. Wow. All right.
But
I did like it. To be clear, I did like it.
Have you guys seen the new movie in theaters right now that everyone's talking about, Barbarian?
Oh yes.
No.
You have? Is it good?
It's pretty good. Like it's probably. I mean, there's been of a like revival of like good horror out there now, and I mean,
This is like the Airbnb movie. Like it's like a
Yes,
like
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't spoil it, but I'm very
I've had
interested
some
in
horror
seeing it.
stories in the Airbnb. You know,
Hey, talk about Airbnb and horror stories.
Also, too, there's another one of those Airbnb horror stories. I'm like, is there like a subgenre that's developing now?
there's first there was Hostel, and now there's Airbnb. Each one has different
Where do you see the Uber horror movie?
I think there is one. No, I remember seeing a horror movie.
Yeah, it's called
Lockwood.
Spree. It's
I think that guy gave me a ride from the airport.
But Andy, let's hear it.
You know, I love this movie so much because first of all, it looks like William Stout's art. William Stout is one of the two artists I always credit as like really influenced me in going into becoming an artist. So that's why I so much love watching this movie. Stout, for those of you who don't know, started doing movie posters professionally, and then did a lot of work for paleontologists, and did several beautiful dinosaur books, which I had gotten whenever I was very small, and very much influenced me wanting to become an artist just like him. But if you've not seen his work, you've seen his work because he did Wizard, the animated movie. He did Life of Brian. He did Animal House, like just absolute classic all timer movie posters. Caveman, no, nobody's seen Caveman except for me. I saw it at the theater, but that's a whole other story.
We believe you.
Anyways, yeah, don't watch Caveman. That's the important thing. Just don't.
If Andy's telling you don't, you know that's
Yeah,
like,
you really. It's
Yeah, no. I mean, if you're a Ringo Starr fan, like, just don't.
We all live in a yellow submarine.
But yeah, so we'll be back on Friday. We have the
we actually done, Andy? Was that the end of it? Like,
Yeah,
it's
it was
kinda-
Mostly,
Peter didn't know
I
which
was going to
movies you
actually
should
just say that the other thing this movie benefited from visually was the fact that Bernie Wrightson, who was mentioned earlier, really did do some groundbreaking work in the 70s with some of his horror artwork, which he did totally raise the bar from what was done in the 50s with EC. Where they did mention Jack Davis, who is phenomenal, and I absolutely love Jack Davis too. He's another person who, like, you've probably seen his work around and you didn't even realize it because he's done lots of like TV guide, like look up his TV guide covers, like those are a lot of fun.
Well, if there's one thing I do in my spare time, I look up some TV guide.
Honestly,
guide covers, yeah.
Honestly, like there's some great art. Like Frank Frazetta did some TV guide covers.
Stop. It's okay. It's fine. We believe you. Yeah.
Like they got some good people there. But anyways, or they had back in the day. But yeah, no.
Turn this off and watch TV Guide at tvguide.com.
On Roku.
Yeah, I'll be starting my TV Guide book cover podcast. Anyways, no, but it's just great because, like I said, this is this and Masters of the Universe are the two movies that just like look like one of my favorite artists. Yeah, he did. William Stout did both movies. So the Dolph Lundgren Masters of the Universe movie, I watched.
I'm familiar.
I've watched it a lot, but because of his set design work, and it really like carries through. Like as bad as that movie is, it looks pretty.
It's not great. Yeah.
No, it's terrible, but it does look great, and that's the strength of it. And that's this is actually a good movie that also looks great too. So there you have it. Watch this movie instead of Masters of the Universe.
All right. Well, we will be back
Instamission.
on Friday with our George Lucas correspondent, Bonnie Burton. I'm excited to have her back on. I'm excited to talk. We're talking about Zombieland. We were gonna have an after party tonight, but Andy's not feeling well, so we'll save full blown after
Don't fool
party.
me. Seems like he's doing fine.
Oh, I'm going to crash right after this, but if I am feeling better, I will be seeing The Room with Greg. What's his face from the movie? Yeah, Greg Sestero.
Yeah.
He's going to be introducing it, so hopefully I'll be well enough to actually see him and invite him onto the show.
Come on my podcast, Greg Sestero. Anyway, I'm just gonna say, end of the show. My final thought.
Please get us out of here.
I can finally see one thing that can relieve this horrible suffering. Live Brain.